Welcome back to the channel, COINSX History US. Stop scrolling right now because the nickel in your pocket could be worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're diving into the top 5 ultra super rare Jefferson nickel coins that collectors are desperately hunting for. Some of these nickels were made by mistake, some survived history by pure luck, and one of them might even be sitting unnoticed in your old coin jar. From wartime silver nickels to shocking mint errors that changed lives overnight, this list will blow your mind. Watch till the end because the last Jefferson nickel could be the rarest and most valuable of them all.
Imagine holding in your hand a simple nickel from 1986, a coin that most people would overlook as just 5 cents of pocket change. Yet behind that small piece of metal lies a hidden story of American resilience, design, legacy, minting evolution, and economic change. This is not just a coin. This is a bridge between generations, a silent witness to the economic struggles of the 1980s, the patriotic pride of a nation, and the artistry of American mint craftsmanship. Welcome to the incredible journey of the 1986 Jefferson Nickel. The story of the 1986 Jefferson Nickel begins long before the year it was struck. To truly understand its creation, we must look back to the roots of the Jefferson Nickel series itself. Born in 1938 as a replacement for the Buffalo nickel, it was designed to honor the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, a man whose vision for America shaped the nation's democratic ideals and whose home, Monticello, became a symbol of neoclassical architecture and innovation. The nickel that carried his portrait was crafted by sculptor Felix Schlag, whose design would endure for decades, becoming one of the most recognizable faces in American coinage. By 1986, the Jefferson Nickel had already become an icon of stability. It had survived World War II, the silver shortages of the 1940s, the redesign debates of the 1960s, and the economic recessions of the 1970s as the 1980s unfolded. America found itself at a crossroads. Inflation was beginning to ease. The economy was stabilizing under Reagan's administration, and coinage production at the U.S. Mint was reaching new levels of precision and efficiency. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints were operating with state-of-the-art technology. Compared to earlier decades, and the 1986 Jefferson Nickel represented the mint's continued commitment to mass production with refined detail and consistency. The 1986 issue was produced in 2 primary circulation strikes from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the San Francisco Mint focusing exclusively on proof strikes for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint coins carried no mint mark that year, a tradition that continued until 1989, while the Denver issues proudly displayed the D mint mark and the San Francisco proofs bore the S mark. Each facility contributed to a total production that exceeded 500 million nickels combined, making the 1986 Jefferson Nickel one of the more common issues of the decade. Yet even among such vast numbers, collectors know that rarity is not always about quantity, but about condition, strike, quality, die variety, and subtle differences that tell a deeper story. The design itself remained true to Schlag's original vision. Jefferson's left-facing portrait graced the obverse, his expression calm and intellectual, symbolizing the Enlightenment spirit of the Founding Fathers. The inscriptions included the word liberty, the date 1986, and the national motto, "In God We Trust." The reverse depicted Monticello Jefferson's Virginia estate with the inscriptions E pluribus unum, Monticello 5 cents, and United States of America. It was a timeless design, still capturing the harmony of American neoclassical aesthetics more than 4 decades after its introduction. What makes the 1986 Jefferson Nickel particularly fascinating to historians and collectors is the subtle shift in minting technology during this era. By the mid-1980s, the U.S. Mint had transitioned to more precise die engraving methods, improving the sharpness of lettering and the clarity of Jefferson's hair details. But at the same time, the high-volume production for general circulation often led to weak strikes, especially on the reverse steps of Monticello. This created one of the most coveted varieties in Jefferson Nickel, collecting the full steps designation. A 1986 Jefferson Nickel with clearly defined complete steps at the base of Monticello was considered a sign of superior strike quality such coins command. significant premiums among collectors, particularly in high-grade mint state or proof condition. The composition of the 1986 Jefferson Nickel remained consistent with the post-1946 standard of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The coin measured 2 millimeters in diameter and weighed 5 grams of formula that had remained unchanged since the end of World War II, when silver was removed from the wartime issues. This metallic stability reflected America's desire for continuity in its coinage. During decades of change, the nickel became not only a unit of currency, but a reliable symbol of the U.S. Mint's craftsmanship and consistency. Economically, the nickel held more symbolic value than practical purchasing power. By 1986, 5 cents could buy little, yet the coin remained a cornerstone of U.S. commerce. Vending machines, transportation tokens, and cash registers across the nation still depended on it, and this everyday utility ensured its continued production even as inflation diminished. Its monetary worth, the nickel endured as a relic of habit, tradition, and national identity. For collectors, the 1986 Jefferson Nickel occupies a unique space. It is not an early key date like the wartime silver issues, nor is it a modern redesign like the 2004 Westward Journey series, but it stands as a quiet representative of a stable era, a time when the mint focused on quality control, mass production, and the steady preservation of America's numismatic identity. Among the most notable pieces are those graded by PCGS and NGC with designations such as MS67 and MS68 full steps. Those are the coins that transform a simple 1986 nickel into a museum-worthy artifact, commanding hundreds of dollars in the modern collector's market. The proof. Strikes of 1986 tell another part of this story produced at the San Francisco Mint. These coins were made with polished dies and specially prepared planchets, creating a mirror-like surface and frosted devices. The deep cameo contrast seen on some 1986 proofs exemplifies the peak of minting artistry of that era. These coins were sold in collector sets issued by the U.S. Mint in elegant packaging aimed at numismatists and enthusiasts across the nation, while millions were made pristine examples. Still hold lasting appeal for those who admire perfection in metal form. Beyond the metal and mint marks lies the cultural significance of this coin. In 1986, the United States was celebrating progress, technology, and patriotism, from the Challenger space shuttle missions to the Statue of Liberty's centennial restoration. The spirit of America was one of revival and remembrance. Coins like the Jefferson Nickel served as quiet ambassadors of that pride, small symbols of a nation moving forward, while still grounded in its founding principles and historic figures. The Jefferson Nickel of 1986 was not just a coin, it was a witness to history, a reflection of the balance between innovation and tradition, between mass production and artistic value, between everyday use and collectible prestige. For 2 hours, we could explore every mint mark, every die variation, every proof surface, and every historical layer that shaped this humble yet powerful piece of American metal, from the story of its designer Felix Schlag to the evolution of the minting presses that struck it from the hands of collectors who cherish it to the dealers who trade it. The 1986 Jefferson Nickel continues to captivate anyone who takes the time to truly see beyond its face value. Have you ever held a coin in your hand that looked ordinary at first glance, but carried the legacy of more than 6 decades of American history behind it? Imagine a small piece of metal that not only survived the turn of the millennium, but also symbolized the closing chapter of a design era that had defined generations today. We are diving deep into one of the most fascinating yet overlooked coins in American numismatic history, the 1999 Jefferson Nickel. This is not just another 5-cent piece, it is a time capsule, a bridge between the past and the future of the United States Mint, and a coin that marked the final calm before a new wave of change in American coin design and production. If you are passionate about coins history or hidden stories buried in everyday currency, stay tuned, because what we are about to uncover will forever change how you look at the Jefferson Nickel. Let's journey back to 1999, a year buzzing with anticipation of Y2K fears, booming technology, and a sense of renewal across America, while the nation was focused on the future. The United States Mint quietly struck one of the last Jefferson Nickels of the 20th century, a coin that continued to carry the same proud design that had first been introduced in 1938 when Felix Schlag's vision of Thomas Jefferson and his Monticello home first appeared on the American 5-cent piece. To understand the full story of the 1999 Jefferson Nickel, we have to step back to where it all began. The origins of this coin stretch back to the late 1930s when the U.S. Mint announced a design competition to replace the Buffalo nickel, which had served the country for 25 years. Felix Schlag, a German-born sculptor and artist, won the contest with his classical depiction of Jefferson on the obverse, and the stately image of Monticello on the reverse. His design was elegant, simple, and patriotic, and for over 60 years it remained a staple in the pockets of Americans. By 1999, this same design had already weathered decades of historical milestones. From World War II through the Cold War to the dawn of the Internet era, each Jefferson nickel minted carried a reflection of its time, but few years capture that sense of historical transition. Quite like 1999, this was a coin produced at the crossroads of tradition and technology. The U.S. Mint had begun incorporating advanced minting techniques that improved strike quality and consistency while still relying on the long-standing craftsmanship that had defined the mint for generations. The 1999 Jefferson Nickel was minted at two primary facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, represented by no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, carrying the small D mint mark below Monticello. Both versions were struck in massive numbers. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion nickels, while the Denver Mint followed closely behind with nearly an equal total. But what makes these coins truly captivating is not just their quantity, but the quality variations strike sharpness and subtle differences that collectors today find intriguing. Metal composition of the 1999 Jefferson Nickel continued the standard formula that had been used since 1946, 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving the coin its familiar silver-gray hue and magnetic properties. Although not made of precious metals, the enduring durability of this alloy ensured that many of these coins are still circulating today, more than 2 decades later. Yet even among these billions, there are rare finds. Those with striking errors, double dies, off-center strikes, or exceptional proof finishes that can fetch surprising prices in the collector's market. Speaking of proofs, the 1999 proof, Jefferson Nickels, struck at the San Francisco Mint, marked one of the last years in which the old Schlag design appeared in proof sets before the Mint embarked on the 2004 redesign as part of the Westward Journey Nickel series. These proof coins were struck multiple times on highly polished dies, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. They were not meant for circulation, but for collectors and numismatists who valued the artistry and precision of mint craftsmanship. Each proof was a miniature masterpiece representing the pinnacle of 20th century coin design. Now what makes the 1999 Jefferson Nickel especially symbolic is its place in the timeline of American coinage as the final full-year issue before the millennium. It stood at the edge of a massive change in both design philosophy and public perception. By the early 2000s, the U.S. Mint was preparing to modernize its coinage, not just for aesthetics, but for security and technical reasons. This meant sharper details, updated portraits, and new representations of national heritage. The 1999 issue therefore served as the end of an era for the classic Jefferson design that had endured unaltered for 61 years. Collectors often debate which years of the Jefferson Nickel series hold the most historical or investment value, while early wartime silver nickels from the 1940s and rare era dates like 1950D often dominate conversations. The 1999 nickel occupies a quieter yet equally significant space in the collection world. It symbolizes continuity. It reminds us of the strength of design, longevity, and the story of a nation that values heritage even as it steps forward into innovation. When examining a 1999 Jefferson Nickel under magnification, you can appreciate the refined yet familiar portrait of Jefferson facing left, the sharp cheekbone, the fine detailing in his hair, and the delicate curve of his collar beneath the word Liberty, and the year 1999. The reverse displays Monticello with remarkable symmetry, its domed roof columns and steps serving as a constant reminder of American architectural brilliance. The words E pluribus unum and 5 cents gracefully curve around the image, reflecting ideals of unity and value in simplicity. Errors in 1999 nickels are particularly fascinating. Some examples exhibit die clashes where parts of Jefferson's bust appear faintly on the reverse. Others display double dies that create shadow-like effects around the lettering. These minting anomalies are accidental, yet they give each coin a unique fingerprint, and such varieties are highly sought after by collectors, especially in mint state condition in the broader context of U. Mint history 1999 also represents a time of technological advancement. This was the year when the mint's engraving and die-making processes began transitioning toward digital and laser-assisted methods, laying the groundwork for the more detailed portraits and updated reliefs introduced in the 2000s. This means that the 1999 Jefferson Nickel was one of the final issues fully crafted through the traditional hand-engraved methods that had been used for decades, a final testament to old world craftsmanship before the dawn of computer-aided design. The coin also captures the cultural mood of late 20th century America: optimism, technological excitement, and a nostalgic reverence for tradition. It was a year when Americans were looking both backward and forward, when the past felt comforting, but the future was full of promise. This sentiment is etched in every 1999 Jefferson Nickel, a quiet witness to the last heartbeat of the 20th century. Imagine holding a small piece of American history right in your hands, a coin that may look ordinary but carries decades of untold stories, a silent witness to the passing of time. The 1972 Jefferson Nickel may seem like just another coin, but what if I told you that this simple 5-cent piece hides secrets that only true collectors and numismatists can appreciate, from subtle design variations to minting mysteries and economic significance? This is not just a nickel. It is a mirror of America in 1972, and today we are diving deep into its legacy, its artistry, and its hidden value. Welcome to the world where history meets metal, where passion meets preservation. Welcome to the deep journey of the 1972 Jefferson Nickel. The year 1972 stands as a defining moment in American coinage, a period when the United States Mint was steadily producing billions of coins to meet the needs of a rapidly changing economy. The Jefferson Nickel, first introduced in 1938, continued to be one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. By 1972, it had already witnessed more than 3 decades of production, political change, and artistic endurance designed by Felix Schlag. The Jefferson Nickel was a tribute to Thomas Jefferson III, President of the United States and the visionary author of the Declaration of Independence. The 1972 issue carried that same design, yet subtle changes in die-wear striking quality and minting details made it a fascinating piece for collectors. The obverse of the 1972 Jefferson Nickel features the left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson with the inscriptions "Liberty" and the date 1972 placed along the right rim, while "In God We Trust" curves gracefully around the left side of Jefferson's face. The image itself had evolved slightly since its introduction. Schlag's design faced multiple minor adjustments over the years, primarily to improve striking consistency and clarity of detail. But by 1972, the mint's machinery had started showing signs of overuse due to high production demands, leading to varying levels of sharpness across coins struck at different facilities. 3 primary mint locations were responsible for producing the 1972 Jefferson Nickel: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without any mint mark, while the Denver Mint used a small D, and the San Francisco Mint used an S mint mark. Philadelphia produced an enormous quantity of regular circulation strikes, totaling over 370 million pieces. Denver followed with around 268 million, and San Francisco focused mainly on proof issues intended for collectors. The proof coins from San Francisco stood out for their mirror-like fields and frosted details. They were struck multiple times under higher pressure, resulting in beautifully defined features that made the Jefferson portrait almost lifelike under light. When we discuss the historical backdrop of 1972, the United States was navigating through economic tension and political change. Inflation was rising. The Vietnam War continued to cast a shadow over national morale, and yet the mint persisted in maintaining coin production at record levels. The nickel at that time held significant purchasing power compared to today. It was enough to buy a small candy or make up part of the fare for public transportation. Even though the 5-cent piece had long lost its silver content, it remained an important everyday coin for Americans across all classes and communities. Metallurgical composition of the 1972 Jefferson Nickel remained unchanged since 1946, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, forming a durable alloy that resisted wear and corrosion. The coin measured 21 2 millimeters in diameter and weighed exactly 5 grams. The same specifications that still define nickels today. This consistency became one of the reasons why Jefferson Nickels continued to circulate seamlessly through decades without needing major redesigns or compositional changes. Numismatically speaking, the 1972 Jefferson Nickel does not feature rare silver wartime alloys like the 1942 to 1945 series, but it does offer collectors a unique window into die varieties and minting characteristics. One of the most intriguing varieties is the 1972 D/D repunched mint. Mark a subtle doubling of the D visible under magnification. Collectors prize this variety for its rarity and its connection to the manual minting processes of the time when hand-punching mint marks could lead to small yet fascinating differences. Another noteworthy aspect is the presence of strong and weak strikes. Some coins show fully visible steps on Monticello Jefferson's home located on the reverse side, while others show smooth or partially struck steps known as the full steps designation. This grading detail has become a key indicator of quality and value in the Jefferson Nickel series. Speaking of the reverse, the design remains one of the most elegant representations of classical American architecture. Monticello stands at the center, framed by the inscriptions E Pluribus Unum at the top, Monticello at the base, and United States of America, along with the denomination 5 cents. The reverse was always a test of minting quality. The number of visible steps at the base of Monticello often determined how well the coin was struck by 1972. Minting technology had improved compared to the early years, but still not enough to produce consistent, full-step examples across all coins. That is why a 1972 Jefferson Nickel with full steps can fetch a premium today in terms of grading and value. Most 1972 Jefferson Nickels found in circulation are worth only their face value, however uncirculated. Examples, particularly those with sharp details and full steps, can reach higher prices. Coins graded MS65 or higher often attract strong collector interest, and if they come with full steps designations, the value multiplies several times over proof. Coins from San Francisco also carry collectible appeal, especially those in pristine condition, with deep cameo contrast between the mirrored fields and frosted designs. Collectors today view the 1972 Jefferson Nickel not merely as an old coin, but as a symbol of stability in American currency. The design had already survived multiple decades without drastic change, while other denominations had undergone redesigns or replacements. The nickel remained untouched, embodying the endurance of tradition. Amid modernization, the Jefferson Nickel series also connects collectors with America's artistic and historical heritage. Each date and mint mark combination tells a story about its era, from wartime shortages to post-war prosperity, and into the age of industrial expansion in the early 1970s. The production techniques in 1972 were largely mechanical, yet still carried a touch of craftsmanship. The use of steel dies engraved by hand and later by pantograph meant that even the smallest detail in Schlag's design had to be perfectly aligned. This balance between human artistry and machine precision defines why many collectors remain fascinated by mid-century and early 1970s coinage. In modern terms, the 1972 Jefferson Nickel may seem common, but when examined under magnification, every detail reveals the mint's effort to maintain quality at an industrial scale. The satin-like luster of uncirculated examples, the crispness of Jefferson's hair curls, and the fine lines of Monticello's architecture all tell a story of precision and pride. As the years went by, millions of these nickels entered circulation, carried in pockets through decades of American life. They witnessed everyday transactions from gas stations to diners to vending machines, each coin slowly accumulating wear, yet holding the same image of Jefferson's thoughtful gaze. Collectors often reflect on this endurance, realizing that every worn 1972 nickel once had a journey of its own. Some may have passed through thousands of hands across 50 states before being retired into a collection or lost in time. Beyond its physical form, the 1972 Jefferson Nickel represents a continuation of America's economic identity, the stability of its design and composition. Through years of social and political change, speaks to the resilience of the U.S. Mint and the American people alike. It stands as a small monument to history, one that bridges generations of coin collectors who understand that value is not only measured in rarity or grade, but in the story a coin tells about the nation that made it. From the bustling mint floors of Philadelphia to the high polish-proof chambers of San Francisco, the 1972 Jefferson Nickel remains a product of dedication, innovation, and national pride. Its history is not confined to metal, but expands into the narrative of American craftsmanship and endurance. So the next time you come across a 1972 Jefferson Nickel, pause for a moment and remember that what you hold is not just a 5-cent coin. It is a fragment of history, a link between the vision of Thomas Jefferson and the enduring spirit of American coinage. Have you ever held a coin that carried more than just its face value, a coin that whispered stories from the heart of American history? Today, we uncover the untold legacy of the 1958 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that looks ordinary to the untrained. But hides a powerful story of transition, craftsmanship, and American pride from the minting halls of Philadelphia and Denver to the hands of millions of Americans. This coin marks the final calm before one of the biggest design and production changes in U.S. coinage history. Stay tuned as we dive deep into the craftsmanship, the minting secrets, the errors, and the market value shifts that make the 1958 Jefferson Nickel one of the most underrated yet significant coins in U.S. history. The story of the 1958 Jefferson Nickel begins in the post-war era of American optimism, when the United States was growing stronger, economically, culturally, and politically. The Jefferson Nickel itself had been in circulation since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel and featuring one of the nation's founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse, and his Monticello estate on the reverse designed by Felix Schlag. This coin became not only a piece of currency, but also a reflection of American heritage and artistry. By 1958, the Jefferson Nickel had been in production for 2 decades, and the U.S. Mint had mastered the art of striking this coin with consistency, precision, and beauty. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were the only 2 facilities to produce the 1958 Jefferson Nickel. There were no nickels minted in San Francisco. During this year, this meant that collectors and historians would later focus their attention on mint marks and subtle details that distinguish one coin from another. The Philadelphia issue had no mint mark, while the Denver issue bore a small D located to the right of Monticello on the reverse side. Both versions were struck from the standard composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it the familiar silvery tone that endures through decades. 1958 was a year of technological transition within the U.S. Mint. Advances in die production and metal preparation began improving strike quality, although the coins were still made using traditional mechanical presses. Compared to later years, these presses required manual oversight by skilled mint workers who ensured the dies remained aligned and the pressure consistent. The Jefferson Nickel's design, especially the steps of Monticello, was notoriously difficult to strike fully. Many coins from 1958 failed to show complete step detail, which would later become one of the most sought-after features for collectors, known as full steps or FS designations. These refer to the sharply defined horizontal lines at the base of Monticello when all 5 or 6 steps are visible without breaks. The coin is considered a numismatic gem. In 1958, the Philadelphia Mint produced around 168 million nickels, while the Denver Mint struck nearly 120 million in total. The mintage surpassed 280 million coins, making it one of the higher production years for the Jefferson series. Despite that, the survival of high-quality coins, especially those with sharp details and minimal contact marks, is relatively low due to heavy circulation. Most of the nickels minted that year were used daily in commerce, passing through countless hands buying coffee, newspapers, gasoline, and groceries. It was the era before widespread credit cards, when coins truly powered the American economy. As we explore the design, the obverse of the 1958 Jefferson Nickel presents a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson rendered with classic neoclassical styling. His expression is calm and thoughtful. A tribute to his intellect and leadership. Around the edge of the coin reads the words, "In God we trust," on the left, and "Liberty," followed by the date 1958 on the right, connected by a small 5-pointed star. The reverse side features Monticello Jefferson's famous estate in Charlottesville, Virginia. The building is framed by the word Monticello at the top, 5 cents below, and United States of America along the lower rim. A pluribus unum is centered above the dome, signifying the unity of the states. By 1958, the dies used for minting were showing slight wear from years of repeated use. Minor changes and refinements occurred in the engraving to maintain clarity. Yet, the mint refrained from any major redesign until the 1960s. This makes 1958 an important transitional year. It represents the last pure stage of the early Jefferson Nickel design before subtle modernizations began appearing. Collectors today view the 1958 Jefferson Nickel as an affordable yet historically rich coin. Its value in circulated grades is modest, but in mint state conditions, particularly in MS-65 to MS-67, with full steps, the prices can reach hundreds of dollars, and in rare top condition even over 1,000, especially from the Denver Mint, which is known for slightly weaker strikes. The most prized 1958 D nickels are those showing sharp steps and clean luster preserved from uncirculated rolls or original mint sets. There are also known varieties and errors that fascinate coin enthusiasts. Some examples include double die obverse and reverse issues, where letters or features appear slightly doubled due to misalignment in die preparation. Other varieties include repunched, mint marks or die cracks along Monticello's columns, though not as dramatic as wartime silver nickel errors. These 1958 mistakes still attract attention and can significantly boost a coin's desirability and market value. The year 1958 also connects deeply with the broader American story. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. The nation stood at the dawn of the space age, and the spirit of progress was everywhere. The Jefferson Nickel was part of the fabric of everyday life, yet it was also a silent witness to social change. The civil rights movement was gaining strength, and the U.S. economy was thriving. The coin symbolized stability in an era of rapid transformation. Its metallic shine reflected both tradition and hope. When studying the Jefferson Nickel series, numismatists often divide its history into major phases. The early silver wartime nickels from 1942 to 1945, the pre-modern years from 1938 to 1964, and the modern-clad issues beginning in 1965, the 1958 nickel falls squarely in the pre-modern era, making it one of the last pure copper nickel issues before the mint overhauled many of its processes. It was a period when design integrity and die craftsmanship still depended heavily on human expertise. Every coin struck was a small piece of artistry born from the efforts of engravers, die sinkers, and press operators who dedicated their careers to perfection. Over time, collectors have come to appreciate the 1958 Jefferson Nickel not just for its face value or metal content, but for what it represents: the end of an age of traditional minting and the perseverance of a classic American design. The Jefferson portrait continued to appear on the nickel for decades, but by the 1960s and 1970s, design fatigue and modernization efforts began altering its details. The 1958 issue remains one of the last untouched examples of Felix Schlag's original artistic vision, before refinements began reshaping the portrait and Monticello's relief. As the years passed, millions of these coins were lost to wear, melting, or circulation attrition, yet thousands survived in collectors' hands. Today they are preserved in albums and coin slabs carefully graded by professionals from the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company. Their surfaces tell stories of history and preservation, shining reminders of mid-century America. To truly understand the 1958 Jefferson Nickel is to see beyond metal and mint marks. It is to understand the evolution of American craftsmanship and the quiet dignity of a design that has endured for nearly a century. This coin remains a symbol of progress, continuity, and the enduring value of American coinage. Whether you are a casual collector, a numismatist, or simply someone fascinated by history, the 1958 Jefferson Nickel holds a story worth telling, a story of legacy, precision, and the timeless beauty of American minting. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary that it hides a story of war, innovation, and American pride? The 1941 Jefferson Nickel isn't just a 5-cent piece. It's a silent witness to a turning point in American history. A coin that bridges peace and war, economy and craftsmanship, art and politics. What if I told you that this single nickel tells the tale of how America prepared for global conflict while holding on to its identity through design, detail, and durability? Today we'll journey deep into the creation, production, and legacy of the 1941 Jefferson Nickel, a journey that takes us from the heart of the U.S. Mint to the very soul of a nation on the brink of World War II. This is not just coin collecting. This is history in your hands. The year 1941 was one of global uncertainty, and quiet preparation. The world was already engulfed in the fires of World War II, but the United States was still holding on to neutrality. However, the winds of war were growing stronger every day, and industries across the nation were shifting toward a war-ready mindset. In this atmosphere, even something as small as a nickel carried importance. The Jefferson Nickel, first introduced in 1938, was still a relatively new design in American coinage, replacing the beloved buffalo nickel that had circulated for 25 years. Designed by Felix Schlag, a German-born American sculptor, the Jefferson Nickel honored one of the most influential founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, whose vision of democracy and education helped shape the United States. The obverse of the coin featured a left-facing portrait of Jefferson, calm, dignified, and deliberate, representing the ideals of leadership, reason, and progress. The reverse showed his Virginia home, Monticello, a neoclassical structure that Jefferson himself designed, standing as a symbol of architecture, intellect, and independence. By 1941, the coin had already gone through 3 full years of production, with minor adjustments made to improve the strike and the clarity of Monticello's steps. The Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints all contributed to the production of the 1941 Jefferson Nickel. Each mint had unique challenges during this year. Philadelphia, being the main hub, produced the majority of the coins, boasting a strong mintage of over 203 million pieces. Denver followed with over 53 million, and San Francisco struck around 43 million nickels. Together, they made the 1941 issue one of the most common pre-war nickels in circulation, but their value today depends heavily on condition, die quality, and mint mark clarity. The 1941 Jefferson Nickel represents the last full year before America entered the Second World War. In just 1 year, the U.S. Mint would change the nickel's composition due to wartime metal shortages, introducing the famous silver war nickels that began in late 1942. But in 1941, the traditional alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel remained intact, giving these coins a unique status as the final pre-war alloy issues. They are, in many ways, the closing chapter of America's peacetime coinage era before materials and priorities shifted toward national defense. Collectors and historians look at the 1941 nickel not just as currency but as a time capsule. The luster, the strike, the die varieties, and even the minor minting imperfections tell us about the machinery, the technology, and the workforce of that time. The Philadelphia Mint's coins are generally known for strong strikes and good detail, though some early runs show weak steps on Monticello. The Denver Mint often produced coins with sharp detail, but more frequent die deterioration, leading to rougher surfaces in some specimens. The San Francisco Mint's coins, though lower in quantity, are known for slightly softer strikes but cleaner, more polished dies, giving them a subtle charm that collectors recognize immediately. Among these, the full-step varieties, coins where the steps of Monticello are fully visible and distinct, are especially prized. Achieving a full-step strike in 1941 required precise die alignment and pressure, something not consistently maintained during high-volume production. Because of that, full-step examples, particularly from San Francisco, are quite rare and command significant premiums in the collector's market. The artistry of Felix Schlag deserves its own attention. When he first submitted his design in 1938, it wasn't accepted immediately. The U.S. Mint held a design competition with over 390 artists participating, and though Schlag's design was selected, he was asked to modify it before production. His original reverse had a more dynamic view of Monticello with perspective depth, but the Mint wanted a straight-on architectural view that aligned with traditional coinage symmetry. By 1941, Schlag's work had matured in the public eye, becoming instantly recognizable across the nation. Millions of Americans used Jefferson's image daily, associating it with both the stability of the past and the uncertainty of the future. What makes the 1941 Jefferson Nickel fascinating is how it connects everyday life to history. Imagine an American in 1941 walking to a corner store, buying a newspaper for a nickel, reading headlines about Europe's turmoil while paying with this coin, an object that quietly symbolized America's identity. That same coin could have passed through the hands of a factory worker producing military equipment or a young soldier buying a soda before enlisting. Each nickel carried not just value, but a story of resilience and anticipation. From a technical standpoint, the 1941 Jefferson Nickel was struck with precision using high-quality planchets, But as wartime demand for metal increased, even these production standards faced pressure. The mint began experimenting quietly with alternative alloys to prepare for possible shortages. This research laid the groundwork for the composition change that would occur in 1942, when silver and manganese replaced nickel in the alloy. Thus, the 1941 nickel serves as the last chapter of consistency before necessity forced innovation. Today, grading plays a major role in determining the 1941 Jefferson Nickel's worth. Coins in circulated condition hold modest value, but uncirculated examples with strong luster and full steps are highly collectible. A 1941 Philadelphia or Denver nickel in MS-67 full steps can bring hundreds of dollars, while a San Francisco full-step specimen can cross into the thousands. Proof coins struck in Philadelphia are another story altogether. The 1941 proof Jefferson Nickel had a mintage of about 18,700 pieces, making it one of the last proof issues before the mint suspended proof coinage for wartime efficiency. These proofs have deeply mirrored surfaces and crisp detail, making them miniature masterpieces of pre-war minting art. From 1941 onward, the Jefferson Nickel would evolve in both material and meaning. Wartime nickels, post-war strikes, and even modern issues all trace their lineage back to these early years. The 1941 nickel remains a cornerstone for Jefferson collectors, not only for its historical context, but also for its transitional position between peace and war. Its design stood the test of time, continuing all the way until 2003, before being replaced by newer commemorative versions of Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's view. As we study this coin, we uncover layers of America's story: industrial strength, artistic pride, economic resilience, and the human spirit in the face of change. Every scratch, every shine, and every preserved mint mark from 1941 speaks to a moment when America stood on the threshold of transformation. Collectors don't just see metal, they see memory. And that is what makes the 1941 Jefferson Nickel one of the most captivating coins in American history.